Yemi went down on one knee in front of 43 colleagues, a bouquet of sunflowers, and a dining hall that had gone completely silent, and Ada wanted to disappear into the floor. She had told him no before. She had told him gently, clearly, in the particular tone women use when they are hoping a man will hear them without needing to be hurt. He had not heard her. And now he was kneeling in front of everyone, his voice shaking with the kind of emotion that looked like love but felt, to Ada, like a cage being built in public. I have loved you for so long, he said.
Marry me.
Marry me.
Yemi,
Ada
no,
stepped back.
I am already married.
Yemi. No. I am already married. His face changed. Not into heartbreak, into something uglier. Something possessive and humiliated that had been hiding behind the smiles all along. He stood up fast.
You are
lying, he snapped.
You just want to shame me
in front of everybody. And that was when Kofi Asante's voice cut through the entire room like a blade. Not loud. Not theatrical. Just final. This woman is my wife, he said, walking forward slowly. And she is carrying my children. The dining hall erupted. And Ada stood in the middle of it all. Realizing that the most dangerous place a woman could stand was between two men. One who wanted to own her future, and one who was only just beginning to understand he already had. Hello besties, welcome to the Rhythm's Tales. Please like, share and subscribe. Also turn on the notification button so you won't miss out on more intense stories like this. The lights were still on in a few offices upstairs, but the noise of the day was long gone. No phones ringing. No heels clicking on polished tiles. Only the soft hum of air conditioning and the distant sound of water running somewhere deep in the building. Ada Mensah pushed her cleaning trolley slowly down the corridor of the Asante Group headquarters, careful not to let the wheels squeak too loudly against the floor. She had been on her feet since 6 in the morning. Her back ached in the particular way that stopped being sharp and became something dull and constant, like a conversation she was tired of having with her own body. Her eyelids felt weighted. But she kept her face calm, the way she had trained herself to do since life stopped being gentle with her. Ada was the kind of beautiful that did not announce itself. Dark, smooth skin. Full lips that stayed pressed together in quiet endurance. Eyes that looked older than her 24 years, having carried things that eyes that age were never supposed to carry. Her hair was pulled back into a low, neat bun, not because she loved the style, but because the job did not forgive loose strands. She wore her uniform the way a soldier wore armor. Not proudly, necessarily. She stopped in front of a door at the far end of the corridor. It had no number, only a small brass plate fixed at eye level. One word. Private. Ada adjusted the folded towels in her arms and read the message her supervisor had sent 40 minutes ago. Fresh towels. Mr. Asante's suite. Now. Mr. Asante. Ada swallowed. Everyone at the Asante Group knew that name the way people knew the name of a sickness they were afraid of catching. Kofi Asante was the CEO. The man who could end your contract with one sentence and never raise his voice doing it. The man who looked at people as if he were quietly calculating how long before they became irrelevant. Ada had seen him once from a distance in the lobby, surrounded by men in suits who moved slightly faster whenever he moved. She had thought then that power looked exhausting on some people and effortless on others. Kofi Asante was effortless. She lifted her hand and knocked. Quietly. Professionally. Nothing. She knocked again, slightly firmer. Sir. The lock clicked. The door opened just enough. Warm light spilled into the corridor. Ada stepped inside with small, careful steps, the kind of steps that tried not to disturb the air itself. The suite was large and expensive in the way that did not need to try. Every surface looked polished with patience. There was a faint smell of clean soap and something sharper underneath. Cologne that had settled into the room and refused to leave. She heard movement near the far side of the room. Then she saw him. Kofi Asante stood near the bed, adjusting the cuff of his shirt with the ease of a man who had never once been in a hurry, because the world had always waited for him. He was tall, broad-shouldered. The kind of handsome that made people quietly angry because it looked completely accidental on him. Clean-shaven jaw, sharp and defined. Eyes dark and steady, the kind that did not miss things. He glanced at her. Just once. But it was enough to make Ada's stomach pull tight. What is it? He said. It was not a question. It was a door slightly ajar. Not welcoming but not fully closed. Ada walked to the side table and placed the towels down with practiced neatness. Sir, I am here to bring fresh towels. I will be on my way. He did not say thank you. He did not look at the towels. His eyes stayed on her face with the particular attention of someone trying to remember where they had filed something. If that is all, sir. Ada turned toward the door. That was when Kofi moved. He did not rush. He did not grab her arm or raise his voice or do any of the things that would have made it simple and clear. He simply stepped, smooth, unhurried, until he was between Ada and the door. The distance between them was not small, but the door was behind him now, and reaching it meant going through him. Ada's fingers tightened around the edge of her apron. Sir. Her voice was steady. She had practiced steady for years. Please let me pass. Kofi's eyes narrowed, not with cruelty, but with something that looked almost like curiosity. Why are you shaking? I am not shaking, sir. The lie came quickly and without apology. He studied her face for a moment the way a man studied a document he was not sure he trusted. Are you one of those girls who walk into rooms like this hoping to leave with something? Ada blinked. Confusion crossed her face first, genuine and unguarded, before the fear returned to replace it. No, sir. Kofi leaned slightly closer. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of him like standing near something that radiated heat. Then why are you here this late? Because I was told to bring towels, she said, her voice quieter than she wanted it to be. That is my job. His gaze moved briefly across her face. Her lips, back to her eyes. Ada's throat went dry. She took one careful step backward, but the door was still behind him, and the room felt smaller than it had when she walked in. Her mind began to move the way it always moved when danger came close. Fussed. Calculating. She had grown up reading situations the way other children read books. Out of necessity, out of survival. She had seen how men changed when they had power and nobody watching. She had watched women like her get blamed for things they did not plan. She had no father in this city. No brother. No one who would walk into a building like this and stand beside her. If she made one wrong move now, her entire life could scatter again. And she was already holding the pieces of it so carefully. Sir, she said, forcing steadiness into her voice the way you forced a window open in the rainy season, with both hands and patience. I am begging you. Please let me go. Kofi watched her. Something moved across his eyes. Not softness, he did not deal in softness, but something adjacent to it. Something like annoyance at himself. Something like a man who had not expected to feel anything, and was irritated to discover he did. He exhaled slowly through his nose. You want to leave? Yes, sir. Fine. He did not move. But tell me something first. Ada's heart thudded so loudly she was certain he could hear it. Sir, what do you want to know? He looked at her directly. Name your price. The words landed in the room like something dropped from a height. Ada stared at him, genuinely shocked, her mouth opening before any words arrived to fill it. Sir, I don't understand. Stop pretending you don't. His voice stayed flat, businesslike, the way a man discussed numbers in a meeting. If you want something, say it. What is your price? Ada's mouth opened, closed. For one long moment, pride rose in her chest like something volcanic. Pride tried to remind her who she was. That she was a graduate. That she had a degree sitting in a folder in her small apartment. That she had worked too hard and endured too much to reduce herself to this single humiliating moment, in an expensive hotel suite at the top of a building she cleaned for a living. But pride did not pay hospital bills. Pride would not bury her mother. Pride would not stop the landlord from throwing her into the street when rent came due at the end of the month. Ada swallowed hard. Her eyes stung. She refused to let the tears fall here. Not in front of this man. Not in this room. Sir, she said very quietly. I need money. Kofi's expression did not shift. How much? Ada hesitated. In her mind she saw her mother's face. The last week. The weak, labored breathing. The way her mother's hands had felt so light when Ada held them. Like they were already releasing the world slowly, letting it go piece by piece. The way Ada had sat beside that hospital bed and smiled through her own terror and promised, with a voice that shook but did not break, that she would give her a proper burial, that she would not let her be treated as though she had meant nothing. Ada lifted her eyes fully for the first time, and looked directly at Kofi Asante. 600,000, she said. His brows lifted slightly, just slightly, like a man who had expected a smaller number, and found himself mildly recalibrating. Ada did not look away. 600,000 naira. For my mother's burial. Silence. In that silence, Ada felt everything at once. The shame, the fear, the disbelief that this was the position her life had arranged itself into. A part of her wanted to run out of that room and never stop running. Another part of her, the exhausted, grief-soaked, barely sleeping part, wanted to sit down on the floor of that expensive suite and scream until her throat turned inside out. Instead she said, almost to herself, I have never done this before. But I have no other choice. Kofi's gaze stayed on her face, searching, not with warmth, but with the focused attention of a man who was deciding whether something was real. Ada forced the words out properly, clearly. Sir,
I will not cling to you afterward.
I am not trying to trap
you.
I am not
just
trying
need
to
the
trap
money
you.
Urgently
I
for
just
my
need the
mother.
money urgently. For my mother. Something shifted in the room. Not a softening exactly. Kofi Asante did not soften. But the air changed, the way air changed when a story entered a space and refused to be ignored. You have a bank account, he said. It was not a question. Ada nodded quickly. Yes. Say the details. She hesitated for only a moment. Giving her account number to this man felt like stepping into water she could not see the bottom of. But she said it. Steadily. Number by number. Kofi picked up his phone. Tapped once. Twice. With the casual efficiency of a man for whom money was simply a number that moved from one place to another without ceremony or meaning. You will receive it, he said. Ada's lips parted. Do you want it or not? His gaze sharpened. Not cruel. Just impatient with hesitation. I do, she said quickly. He stepped closer. Ada's breath caught. Not entirely from fear, and that confused her more than the fear did. His eyes stayed on her face, and his voice dropped lower, quieter, stripped of the boardroom coldness. Look at me, he said.
Look at me.
She did not understand why her body obeyed. She lifted her eyes. For a long moment he simply looked at her. At the exhaustion. At the quiet stubbornness. At the beauty that had not asked for his attention and clearly did not want it. Then he spoke very softly. Are you sure? Ada could have said no. She knew that. Some part of her, the part that still believed in the version of herself she had planned to become, knew she should have said no. She should have walked out of that room and found another way, even if another way took months she did not have. But she was tired of months. She was tired of waiting. She was tired of watching life win every single time she tried to stand up. Ada nodded once. The night passed the way difficult things pass, not cleanly, and not without cost. Later, much later, when the room had settled into stillness and the city outside had gone quiet, Ada lay awake staring into the dark ceiling of an expensive room she had no business being in, feeling the full weight of every choice that had led her to this moment. She pressed her lips together. She told herself the only thing she had left to hold on to. This is the only way. Morning came without apology. Ada woke with a start, disoriented by the softness beneath her and the unfamiliar scent around her. She sat up. Expensive sheets. Warm light. The realization arrived immediately and sat on her chest like something physical. She was in Kofi Asante's suite. Drink this. Ada turned sharply. Kofi stood across the room already fully dressed, looking like a man who had never slept at all. Crisp white shirt. Perfect dark trousers. The same composed, unreadable face. On the table beside him sat a glass of water and a small pack of tablets. Ada swallowed. Sir. Take it, he said. The tone was the same one he probably used in board meetings. Efficient. Final. Ada stared at the tablets. What is it? Medicine. For what? For last night. He said it without blinking. Without discomfort. Like he was answering a question about weather. Ada's cheeks burned. Her mind moved quickly. Medicine. So there would be no consequences. So neither of them would have problems. She reached out slowly and took the tablet pack. She pushed the tablets into her mouth and swallowed them with water, telling herself not to think too much. Kofi picked up his phone again. Your account details. Say them again. I already told you. Say them again, he repeated, without looking up. Ada's fingers tightened around the glass. She repeated her bank name and account number in a small, controlled voice. He tapped on his phone. You will receive the transfer. Ada's chest squeezed. Part relief. Part humiliation. Part of fear she could not fully name yet. Kofi's eyes came up to hers. And listen. His voice lowered. Sharp with warning. Do not mistake this for anything else. I understand, sir. I do not like noise, he added. I do not like people who cling. I will not cling to you. Ada forced the words out steady. I needed the money. That is all. He watched her for a moment, the way a man decided whether to believe a contract clause. Then he stepped aside from the door. Ada slid out of bed, pulled her uniform back on with hands that only shook a little, and kept her face as blank as she could manage. She did not look at him again. She walked to the door and threw it quietly, as though she had never been there. As the door clicked shut behind her, Ada pressed her back against the corridor wall for exactly 3 seconds. She breathed. Her chest hurt. Her eyes burned. She did not cry. Not here. Not in this building. She straightened, wiped her face with the back of her hand, and whispered the words like a prayer she was not sure she believed. This is the only way. By the time she reached the street, morning had fully arrived. The sky was pale and tired-looking, the way skies looked after they had been holding rain all night, and finally let it go. Ada sat on a low concrete wall near the staff entrance, took out her small phone, and stared at it for a long time before she turned it on. The bank notification came immediately. 600,000 naira. The sender's name sat there without emotion. Kofi Asante. Ada closed her eyes. Relief came first, sharp and physical, like something that had been pressing on her sternum finally lifting. Then shame followed it, slow hot, traveling through her chest and up into her throat. And after the shame came something she had no name for. Something like rage at a life that had backed her into corners until corners were the only thing she knew. She opened her eyes, looked at the sky. This money is not for me, she reminded herself. It is for my mother. Only for my mother. That thought was the only thing that made her stand up and move. Her mother was gone. Not gone the way people said it when they were softening the truth for someone. Gone the real way. The way that left silence in a room. The way that left bills and phone calls and people saying sorry who had never once called while she was alive. Her mother had been sick for months. One illness that became another illness that became a hospital room that became a conversation about what happened next. Ada had done everything she could. She had finished university, first in her family to do it, and she had sent out job applications until her fingers cramped and her hope thinned to something almost transparent. She had attended interviews that led nowhere. She had watched people with half her qualifications walk into positions because they knew someone who knew someone. And while she waited for her own chance, her mother's health had kept deteriorating with the particular cruelty of something that does not care about your plans. So Ada had swallowed her pride and taken the cleaning job at the Asante Group. Not because she wanted to clean floors. Because hospital bills did not respect university certificates. Because hunger did not care about dignity. Because her mother needed medicine and the medicine needed money and money needed a job. And the job that was available was this one. She told herself it was temporary. Just until something better opened. Just until someone finally saw her value. But before anything better opened, her mother died. And Ada was left with one final responsibility she could not run from. A burial plot. A payment she did not have. That was why she had needed 600,000 naira. And now she had it. Now imagine carrying all of that. The grief, the shame, the relief. And still having to walk back into the world like a person whose life was normal. If you have ever had to be strong in a moment that deserved falling apart, you know exactly what Ada Mensah felt on that pale morning. And if you are watching this right now and you have not yet subscribed to this channel, I want you to sit with that feeling for just a moment. Because Ada's story is only just beginning, and you do not want to miss what happens next. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell. Because the people who left this story halfway never forgave themselves for it. Later that same morning, while Ada sat on a concrete wall holding her grief and her phone. Kofi Asante sat behind his office desk as though nothing had happened. His shirt was perfect. His hair was neat. His eyes were sharp in the particular way that made people choose their words carefully before speaking to him. Only his executive assistant, Kweku, moved freely around him. Kweku was in his early 30s, clean-cut and efficient, always carrying a tablet like it was an extension of his arm. He had worked with Kofi long enough to understand his moods without needing to ask about them. Kweku cleared his throat. Sir, the Mensah family has confirmed the 600,000 for the burial plot. Kofi did not look up from his screen. So, Kweku hesitated carefully. She has selected a spot in the Asante family burial grounds. The corner section. It will not disturb anything. Kofi lifted his eyes then. His expression did not change, but something cold and quiet moved through them. That space is available, he said. Let her buy it. Kweku nodded quickly, relieved. Thank you, sir. He paused, then added. Also, today is the memorial gathering for your late grandfather. The family has confirmed they will arrive early. Kofi's jaw tightened slightly, the way it always did when something pressed on a part of him he kept carefully covered. I will be there, he said. Kweku nodded again and left. Kofi returned to his screen. Just business. Just another morning. When Ada arrived at the burial grounds later that afternoon, she was not prepared for what she found. She had come with her documents and payment confirmation, and a heart full of one single purpose. Let me settle this. Let me give my mother what I promised her. She walked through the gate with her folder pressed against her chest, her face composed, her steps deliberate. Then she saw the black cars. Dark, expensive vehicles lying neatly along the pathway like soldiers at attention. People in dark clothing moved quietly between them. A family gathering near an older grave that looked well-tended and important. Flowers. Low voices. The particular solemnity of people who grieved with money. And then she saw Kofi Asante. He stood among them like he had been placed there by someone who wanted to make a point. Tall. Composed. His shoulders straight, his expression controlled, grief sitting on him like something he had long ago decided not to let win. He looked like a man who owned everything around him, including the ground beneath his feet. Which, Ada realized with a slow, sickening clarity he did. She stopped walking. Her chest tightened. The truth assembled itself in front of her, piece by piece, with the particular cruelty of things that are obvious once you see them. The money she had shamed herself to collect. The burial plot she had purchased with that money. The Asante family burial grounds. The money had gone from Kofi's pocket to his family's land. Even in death. Even in grief, even in the one act she had done purely for her mother, she had ended up back under his shadow. Not because he planned it, but because in this city, in this world, men like Kofi Asante were everywhere you turned when you had nothing. Ada's fingers tightened around her folder until her knuckles ached. Her throat burned. She told herself to breathe, to keep moving, to finish what she came to do. A staff member approached her gently. Good afternoon, ma'am. Are you Miss Ada Mensah? Yes, Ada said. Please follow me. We will complete the paperwork. Ada followed. She kept her eyes forward. She told herself not to look at Kofi. She failed. She glanced once, briefly, and found his gaze already on her. Not with recognition yet, but with that same focused attention he had given her in the corridor the night before. The look of a man who was certain he had filed something somewhere and could not remember where. She looked away. Fussed. At the small table set aside for paperwork, Ada signed with steady fingers that did not match what was happening inside her chest. The staff member read her details back for confirmation. Full name, please. Ada, she said quietly. Ada Cecilia Mensah. The man wrote it down and repeated it clearly, the way official things were repeated. Ada Cecilia Mensah. Across the burial ground, Kofi's head turned sharply. His eyes found her face. And for the first time, he did not see the cleaner who had knocked on his door. He saw a name. He saw something he could not yet explain but could not ignore. Ada felt it. The weight of his gaze like a hand resting on her shoulder. She did not look back. The burial itself was simple. There was no crowd of important people. No long speeches. No proud family standing behind her in rows. There was Ada, a small gathering of sympathetic faces, and the quiet patience of the earth waiting to receive what she had come to give. When the final prayer was said, and the last shovel of red earth was poured, Ada stood there as if she could still argue with what had happened, as if standing long enough might somehow reverse it. Then her knees gave way. Not because she was weak, because she had been strong for so long that her body had simply decided it was finished pretending. She fell to her knees. The tears came hard. The kind that shook your shoulders. The kind that made your chest feel like it was cracking open from the inside. Not the neat, controlled kind that stayed decorously in the corners of your eyes. The real kind. The ugly kind. The kind that came from somewhere underneath all the composed, enduring, holding it together that had been her life for the last several months. "Mummy," she whispered. Like her mother could still hear her. Like the word itself was a thread that still connected them. People tried to lift her. A hand touched her back. Someone told her to be strong. But Ada could not be strong in that moment. She had been strong for too long. And grief does not care about timetables. Grief arrives when it is ready and it stays as long as it needs to. She cried until her throat went raw. She cried until her eyes swelled. She cried until the tears simply slowed on their own. The way heavy rain eventually softens into drizzle. When she finally stood, her face was wet and her heart felt scooped out. Empty in the particular way that only loss creates. She wiped her cheeks with the edge of her scarf and told herself what she needed to believe. Now I can start again. Even if she did not yet know how. She had barely taken 4 steps away from the grave when her phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Ada almost did not answer. Something, instinct, or maybe just the exhausted openness that grief creates in a person, made her press the green button. "Hello," she said, her voice still rough. "Good afternoon." A woman's voice. Polished and professional. "Is this Miss Ada Mensah?" "Yes. This is the HR department of the Asante Group. We received your application some time ago, and we would like to invite you for an interview." Ada stopped walking. The burial ground stretched behind her. The black cars of the Asante family were still parked along the pathway. She stood completely still, and wondered briefly if grief had made her start imagining things. "An interview?" she repeated. "Yes. For the administrative position. When would you be available?" Ada's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. She had applied for that position 4 months ago, back when applying for things still felt like an act of faith rather than a habit of disappointment. She had almost forgotten she sent it. "I am available anytime," she said. Her voice shook slightly, not from sadness, from something that had no proper name. The strange, disorienting experience of good news arriving on the worst possible day. "Excellent. I will send the details to your email. Please confirm when you receive them." "Okay," Ada whispered. "Thank you." When the call ended, she stood there holding her phone, staring at nothing. A small, fragile, almost frightened hope rose in her chest. Once she survived this pain, once she got through the next few days, maybe something could finally begin. Maybe. It started raining not long after. Light at first, the kind of rain that is more suggestion than commitment, soft tapping on leaves and concrete. Then heavier. Then the kind of sudden, heavy, angry rain that Arula produced in the middle of the season with no apology and no warning. Ada stood under a small shelter by the roadside, shoulders hunched, her folder pressed against her chest to protect the documents. She watched buses splash through puddles. She waited for one that would not be too full to board. Her eyelashes were still wet from crying. The rain did not help distinguish one kind of wet from another. Then she heard a car slow down beside the shelter. A dark, expensive vehicle. The kind that belonged to people who never stood at bus stops. The window rolled down. Kofi Asante looked at her. "Get in," he said. Ada stared at him. "Sir." He glanced at the rain the way a person glanced at something they found personally offensive. "In this weather you want to stand outside?" "I can wait," Ada said. Weakly. Even she could hear how unconvincing it was. "Get in." His voice did not rise. It simply became the kind of flat that meant the conversation was over. The driver, An older man with a stiff posture and the practiced invisibility of someone who had heard too many important conversations, stepped out quickly and opened the back door. Ada stood there for 3 full seconds. Pride told her to refuse. Her wet clothes told her something different. She got in. She sat as far from Kofi as the seat allowed. The door shut. Warmth and silence sealed around her. The car moved. Neither of them spoke. Kofi looked ahead. Ada watched rain streak down the window glass, thin and fast, like everything that had already been lost. Then Kofi reached into the side compartment of the door and produced a clean handkerchief. He turned toward her without asking and began to wipe her cheek. Ada flinched back. Hard. Like he had moved too fast. His hand paused in the air between them. He looked at her with the expression of someone who had expected a different reaction and was sorting through what to do with the one they received. Stay still, he said. Sharp. Impatient. Sir, I am fine. You are clearly not fine. He wiped her cheek again, slower this time, with the focused irritation of a man who had decided to do something and was annoyed at the resistance. His fingers brushed her skin. Ada's breath caught in a way she did not like and did not want and absolutely could not control. She shifted sideways, trying to create distance, and her elbow caught the edge of a water bottle sitting in the cup holder. It tipped. Water splashed, not much, just enough to matter. Kofi looked at the water, then at her. The air in the car changed. You are always behaving like someone is attacking you, he said. I was not. Whatever, he cut in. He leaned back and studied her the way he studied everything, like a problem that needed categorizing. Then in the same casual tone a person used to discuss logistics, he said 1 million. 1 month. Ada's whole body went still. Sir. What? 1 million naira for 1 month, Kofi said again. You clearly need money. Stop pretending you don't. Ada stared at him. For a moment, the desperation rose. The part of her that knew exactly what it felt like to be helpless, to stand at the edge of everything falling apart, and feel the particular vertigo of having nothing to hold. That part of her considered it. If you're still here, if you're hooked on what happens next with Ada, Kofi, and their journey, please hit that subscribe button. I'm putting my heart and soul into this story, and your support means the world to me. Drop a comment with your thoughts on what's coming next, and don't forget to turn on notifications. You definitely don't want to miss what's coming up. And if you don't subscribe, you'll miss the most gripping part of this story. Don't be that person.